What is up, and welcome into another episode of the Somebody Said Kane Show with your boy Breeze. Appreciate everybody tuning in. If you're here, please hit that like, please hit that subscribe. It doesn't do anything to hurt you, it only helps me. So continue to do this show and to do more, right? The plan is to continue to grow this thing, continue to push it forward. Spring ball right now. We're officially through the first week of spring. Summer, it might be a little bit of lull in terms of news, but this show not gonna stop. I'm gonna rock this show all the way through the summertime, and then we know when fall come around, it's gonna get crazy. There's gonna be a lot going on, especially when the season starts. It's definitely gonna be up. This team is gonna hoop. It's gonna be a whole lot of fun. This season is gonna be a blast. So I hope to continue to do this with y'all, and the likes and the subscribes help me to continue to do that and to do even more with this show. So appreciate everybody that tunes in. A lot of folks been hitting the like. A lot of folks been subscribing, leaving comments. I want to chop it up with y'all. I want to talk Canes ball with y'all. Appreciate everybody who's choosing to do that. Man, this week was a little bit different. So last week I came on and it was more so player centric. I came in, I gave some updates of things that I've been hearing, seeing about different players. Well, this week we had a number of coaches go out and do interviews. We had coaches talking. We had Mario talk. We had Dawson talk. We had Heatherman do an interview, Jason Taylor. So we had coaches talking. So that's really going to be the way we go with this week's show. I got snips. I've got clips that I pulled from those coaches' interviews, and I've got thoughts on some of the things that they said. And so we'll use that as the basis for this week's show. And then I'll kind of finish up on a little bit of a recruiting piece because I said last week, recruiting is kind of going up, and that's not about to slow down. This weekend, this upcoming recruiting weekend, and there's a pool party. It is being billed as the biggest recruiting event in Mario's tenure as the Miami head coach. Let that sink in. I'm going to say it one more time. This upcoming weekend is being billed as the biggest recruiting weekend in Mario Cristobal's tenure as the head coach of the Miami Hurricanes. That's a big deal. We've had some big recruiting weekends. Now, if you follow recruiting, and I know a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't really care about recruiting because the kids play games. We're talking about 16, 17, 8-year-old, 18-year-old jits. They commit, they not committed, they silent committed, they chasing the bag and all that kind of stuff. So I get it. If recruiting's not your thing, I get it. If it is your thing, you want to pay attention this weekend, dog, because there's going to be a lot going on. Some big name players. Again, we've had some big recruiting weekends, man. I'll never forget that recruiting weekend where we had Colin Simmons, who ended up committing to Texas. We had Aiden Breland, who ended up going to Oregon, I believe it was, where it was like 3, 4, 5 stars on campus, D linemen. We going after all of these dogs on the recruiting trail. And they were all there one weekend. Well, this weekend, some people are saying will be even bigger than that weekend. It's going to be some names. I'll come to that at the end, man. But I wanted to start this off with the head man, because anytime Mario talks, right, that voice is bigger than any other voice in the room because he's that dude. He's the guy that runs the show. So Mario came into his latest interview. I believe this was after the quote unquote scrimmage that kind of took place. I use air quotes on scrimmage because it was kind of more situational. It was a little more scripted, specific things that they were trying to do. So it wasn't a full blown scrimmage, kind of, how more of a traditional spring game would be. But they did some stuff like that. And Mario came in and did a post game interview. And clearly he had an angle on his mind that he had to get off his chest. This is what Mario had to say over the weekend in the interview that he did. I kind of cut it up because he said the same phrase multiple times, and then after we listen to it, we'll talk about it.
The level of physicality that we want, but not nearly as consistent as we need it to be. Execution needs some work. We certainly need to see more out of everybody, the entire program, every coach, every player, every analyst. Better than this is good. We're demanding more. We need to demand more. We need to coach it harder. We need to coach it better. We need more out of everybody. Yeah, there's some progress, but it's nowhere near enough. We need to be more physical. We need to be more consistent. We need to keep working ourselves, even now, to be in great football shape. But we got to see more from them. We need more durability and physicality out of our corners and our secondary guys. Right, 2 years in a row down the stretch, we're not all the way there.
How many times did that man say the words, "We need more"? Mario clearly had that in his mind when he went into that interview, where it's like he just didn't feel like he got enough out the boys that day. He feel like they wasn't giving enough. The coaches wasn't coaching it hard enough, and it was like we need more. And it's kind of funny when you position that next to the conversation we had last week, where I felt like Mario was a little more rosy, where he was a little more positive. You could tell he felt good about the team. And you come back next week, and the thing that he really drills in over the span of multiple interview questions, Mario kept saying, "We need more. We need more." And that's not surprising because that's kind of more so who Mario actually is. And if you paid attention to the interviews he did and what was that brief window between playing for a natty and then starting up spring ball, he kept telling people every interview he did, he's like, we really got to stay on them this off season so that they don't feel like they don't need to grind as hard because we just went to a natty. And he kept referencing when he was a player and they won a natty and Jimmy Johnson, he said that Jimmy Johnson was on their tails. He said Jimmy Johnson was on their neck after winning that natty because the natural human reaction is to get complacent. The natural human reaction is to be like, dog, we just play for a natty. We good, right? We show up and we get wins. But we all know ball don't really work like that. No sport really works like that. Not anything competitive for real. So if you have that mentality as a team, you're setting yourself up for failure. So Mario, which I think was super insightful, I think is exactly what he needs to be doing, came into this spring, and I think he's going to go into the fall with the same mindset of we got to make sure they don't get complacent. You got to make sure you push him. He said he's going to push him harder than he's pushed him any other offseason because victory will defeat you. That's one of my favorite lines from The Dark Knight Rises. When Bane is giving Batman that work down there in them tunnels, and he tells him that victory has defeated you. That was a dope line. That was a crazy raw line. And he was super right. Victory will defeat you. Winning can make you lazy. It can make you complacent. It can take away that hunger that we always reference in sports. And so Mario coming out after the first scrimmage that the team does here in spring ball and going from really attacking that angle of we need more is not surprising because he knows he's got to stay on these kids. You got to stay on these boys and stay hungry and understand that they got to elevate, right? Because the other part of it is the guys who really led from the front, not there. Ruben Bain and Mesidor, not there. Jacoby Thomas and Keontae Scott, they're not there. CeCe Maui Noah, Markel Bell, and Inez Cooper, Carson Beck, those guys aren't there. So the dudes who are there, who were part of that success, can't allow that measure of success to throw them off their grind. They gotta stay focused. And as a coaching staff, Mario understands that he's got to continue to push them. So I understand it can sound bad, like, dang, Mario's saying it ain't enough, right? If you just take it at face value, Mario's saying the team ain't good enough. We're not deep enough. We shouldn't be excited. Maybe we should stop telling some of these lies we tell in the offseason. Don't take that as the response. Don't stop telling them lies. If you on social media and you telling lies about this Hurricane squad, keep doing it. You're going to be right because Mario's doing what he's doing. Mario's saying what he has to say to stay on top of them boys. Because he also, in that same interview, was asked about Hayden Lowe. And he made the comment and he's like, Hayden, he's hearing what y'all saying. Y'all talking about all them stars that was next to his name. And so now he's not consistent enough. Mario's job is to make sure that those kids don't buy into the lies. We as the fans can tell lies. I'm telling crazy lies. Like I'm absolutely telling, selling, and buying all the lies about Cage football. But obviously in that room, in that staff, in the locker room, in the facility, you can't have that going on. They can't be smelling themselves. Mario as a coach and that staff know that they got to keep them boys sharp and you got to continue to push them even harder than you've pushed them before so that they don't get complacent because they had a little taste of success last offseason. So I thought that was a good place to start again. Anytime Mario talks, I'm going to tune in. When Mario does an interview, I'm going to tune in because, again, he's a head man. And as he goes, the program is going to go. And you can get a lot of nuggets from Mario's interviews. He don't always say a ton, but if you listen to enough Mario, you can kind of get what he's trying to give you, through those interviews, and you kind of sift through some of the stuff. Now, I usually talk offense first. A lot of people go offense first. I forgot to switch it up this week. Usually do offense first. Let's talk defense first. I had a clip too from Corey Heatherman that kind of stood out to me. It was about a particular player, and I kind of wanted to jump into that one. So let's see what Heatherman had to say when he was asked about Hayden, not Hayden Lowe,
Wilson
Dan
specifically
Wilson.
among your new edge guy, just initial impressions on him and what do you think he can bring to the defensive line?
Right out the gate, and we showed a clip yesterday in one of the meetings, is how hard he practices. It doesn't matter ones, twos, threes, his first rep in this uniform, but he goes extremely hard. And that's, when you look at the guys last year, when you look at Bain and Mez and Key and Blay and Wes and all the different guys, Jacoby, that's what those guys were. Every day they got better on the field because of how hard they practiced, how hard they competed. And that's one thing he brings to the program right now. And I think the competition in that room, it's going to make everyone in that room better because how hard he practices, how hard he runs to the ball. And it doesn't matter what group he's running with, what rack he's on. It's just every day trying to compete and get better at his techniques, at his fundamentals. Some of the things we teach are a little bit different. So some of the things right now, he's going through that process of, trying to learn it, trying to learn the technique, trying to learn the hand placement, the footwork, trying to get an understanding of the scheme going on around him. And then the other thing is he's a smart football player. You can tell he's been well coached up, and he understands what's going on, so it's allowed him to adapt a little bit faster.
I love to hear that. Damon Wilson has all the talent in the world. We all know that. Damon Wilson can absolutely be a first-round draft pick. We know that. If you don't know that, put the film on. You can put the film on from Georgia where he was getting limited snaps. You can put the film on when he was at Missouri and he was a starter. Damon Wilson just needs to elevate his consistency, and he's got to strengthen his technique and get better in stopping the run, setting the edge. But hearing Heatherman say that Damon Wilson goes hard in practice, how he's attacking practice in the weight room, that is probably one of the best things I think I could expect to hear from Heatherman at this point in the spring, timeline, because that's something you really can't teach. You could teach technique. You can strengthen guys in the weight room so they can hold up against tackles and they can hold an edge. You can teach guys scheme and how they fit in that scheme. You can't teach guys to grind. You can't teach guys to put in the work and be consistent with the hustle. You can't teach a guy to go hard. At this point in a player's career, Damon Wilson is at his third school. Again, started at Georgia, transferred to Missouri. He's now at Miami. If he hasn't figured out that he's got to put in the work, there's nothing you can do to change that as a coach and as a staff. So to hear that he's putting in that work, for your defensive coordinator to say that he is going hard, I think that's one of the best things Heisman probably could say about this kid. And that brings me a little bit of solace, because as good as Damon Wilson is at getting out the quarterbacks, he struggled in the run game. Call it what it is. But he's got the talent to do it. He's got the physical makeup to be able to hold up against the run. So then was he not being pushed to do it the right way? Was he not being encouraged and taught the right way to do it? I don't know. But if he can unlock that, you look at the defense, and the biggest thing we're going to be missing is the play at defensive end, getting after quarterbacks, but also stopping the run. Ruben Bain is just as good stopping the run as he is getting after quarterbacks. Akeem Mesidor was playing D tackle at times, being asked to stop the run. He played D tackle almost just as much as he played DN a couple seasons ago. If Damon Wilson is going hard like Corey Heatherman says he is, and that means he's elevating his game to be able to stop the run, as good as he gets after quarterbacks, is not going to be a whole lot of drop off in that front four. And that's incredible, because we know what the back end is. I think I speak for all of us when I say we are pretty confident in the DBs and the corners. We know Zachariah Poison. We know Bryce Thornton. We know Xavier Lucas. We know Damari Brown. We know OJ Frederick. And we know Ethan O'Connor. What am I getting at them DNs, man? That's really the biggest question on this defense. The ability and the talent is there. So to hear Heatherman say that Damon Wilson is going hard, man, that warmed my heart, dog. I leaned back and I kind of smiled a little bit, because I'm like, That's what I want to hear, man. So, of all the things, it was like a 15-minute interview Corey Heatherman did. And of all the things that he said, man, like that's the one where like my ears perked up because I'm like, okay, cool. If he's doing that with the talent he's got and the physical makeup, how he just wakes up out of the bed, 6'4", 6'5", 260 plus. Hey, listen, man. If he gonna put in that work, then he gonna be a problem. He gonna be exactly what we need, which that's incredible. So I was happy to hear that, and that was pretty dope. That was exciting to hear. Let's flip to the offense. I've got a clip from Jason Taylor, but I really kind of want to say that to the end because it's great about football, but also I think it's just incredible about life. To me, it was like a mic drop kind of comment that Jason Taylor said. So I'm actually gonna hold that. We'll come back to it. Shannon Dawson also spoke. I'm gonna drop this clip about Shannon Dawson because this is my favorite part of Shannon Dawson. Some people say that I'm a Shannon Dawson apologist, that I cap for Shannon Dawson. I think Dawson is better than he gets a lot of credit for. And this particular thing that he says is part of why I like Dawson so much.
I've said this a million times to recruits and our quarterbacks too, is like the offense will morph around you. I don't try to force feed a certain way. Like however your personality is, this offense is going to morph itself around you. And so certain things that you do well will shine because that's just the way we'll go. And so, that's just the process.
Man, listen, that is such a huge thing. There are so many coordinators and coaches in football where they're like, this is my system. And either you play my system or you can't play for me. And that's lazy. That is a lack of ability. That is like somebody who can only speak with a certain vernacular. That's somebody who only has a certain diction. If you can talk slang or you can only use, African American vernacular English, whatever they call it. If that's all you can do, then you're limited. If you only got a fastball, you're limited as a pitcher, right? If you only can shoot a three, you're limited in the NBA, right? They stick you in a corner. But if you can tailor your game, if you can tailor your coaching, if you can tailor your offense around the skill sets of the players you got, that is high-level coordinator activity. Shannon Dawson, I said this when I went on Miami Flow show. Shout out my guy Flo. Shannon Dawson has ran like 4 different offenses in his time at Miami. The offense he ran with Tyler Van Dyke pre-injury was not the same offense he ran with Tyler when Tyler fell off a cliff. It wasn't the same offense he ran with Cam Ward. It wasn't the same offense he ran with Carson Beck. It's not going to be the same offense that he runs with Darian Mensah. You know how hard that is? A lot of these coaches have been doing what they do for years, right? Shannon Dawson comes from a Hal Mummy tree. If you don't know who Hal Mummy is, go do your research. Go look that up. Hal Mummy is one of the pioneers of the spread, the air raid. Think of the pirate. May he rest in peace. That's the tree that Dawson comes from. And yeah, we've seen Dawson go out and run power spread schemes. We've seen Dawson go under center. We've seen Dawson go 12 personnel, sometimes 13 personnel, big sets, heavy, extra old linemen. That's not what he was taught. That's not what Hal Mummy was running. That's not what Dawson ran at Houston. So for Dawson to be able to be as dynamic and multiple as he is, I'm telling you, man, that's the mark of a true legitimate coordinator. So I think Shannon Dawson gets a lot of flack. Is he a little slow to adjust at times? Sure. And does it take him a little longer than we would like a lot of time to adjust within games, sometimes even within a season? Sure. But ultimately, I think Shannon Dawson every season has done a really good job of saying, what are the skill sets my guys are good at? What do I have from a personnel standpoint? When we got an offensive line that can bully people, we're going to go out against Texas A&M in the second half, and we're going to pound the rock. We're going to do the same thing against Ole Miss. We're going to do the same thing against Ohio State. When I got a Cam Ward out there, we're going to throw the ball 30, 40 times a game. Most coordinators can't do that. Right? Gus Malzahn, who was just at Free Shoes University, couldn't do that. Either you could run the Gus Malzahn system or you couldn't play quarterback running back receiver for Gus Malzahn because he could only do it one way. And once people figured that way out, he fell off a cliff. Shannon Dawson gets a lot of flack, but I think Shannon Dawson also deserves a lot of credit. I want to finish up with a clip that I saw from Alex Mirabal that I thought was a really good piece. He was talking about Ryan Rodriguez and Ryan starting at center. This is what Alex Mirabal had to say about Ryan Rodriguez in the center position.
I know I'm going to get criticized for that, right?
No,
I got criticized for going 3 years in a row. Now we didn't. What gives?
No, but what was
confidence in Ryan. Confidence in Ryan. I thought last year, like Ryan Rodriguez could have started at center for any other program in the ACC, not the University of Miami. And I'll stand by that. Because we had a heck of a center here in James Bronkermeyer, and we had another heck of a center named Ryan Rodriguez. And to Ryan's credit, he loves the University of Miami, and he didn't transfer, right? So to me, he's a guy that should be praised, right, for choosing to stay at Miami. He waited his time, and you know what? He kind of did it the old path, right? That's what used to happen at Miami all the time when guys would play when they were juniors and seniors, and they weren't playing as freshmen and sophomores. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? Everybody makes their turn at a certain time, and this is Ryan's turn, and he's got to keep competing, right? But he's doing a heck of a job from a leadership standpoint, and so we just felt confident that was what the path that we wanted to take. It's a decision that Coach Cristobal made as the head football coach, and then he asked me, and I said, Coach, I agree with you 100%. I think Ryan is a guy that we could trust with the ball in his hand. We could trust him to lead that room, and we can roll from there.
That's huge, man. That's one of the question marks. I think a lot of us have accepted the fact that Ryan Rodriguez will likely be the starter at center this year, but not a lot of people have a whole lot of confidence in Ryan Rodriguez. He's been on the roster for years. He's had his injury issues, right? He's just flat out just missed time. And that's just a fact. That's not a knock on him. It's not saying he's incapable. It's not saying he's soft or he's fragile. It's just a fact that he's had injuries and he's missed time. But for Alex to say that they didn't go get a center in the portal for now the fourth year in a row because they trusted Ryan, I think that's huge. Your center is a big deal. Centers are kind of an afterthought unless they messing up, right? Nobody really thinks about the center until he's missing snaps or, false starting or snapping fraction or blowing blocks and blowing assignments. Other than that, nobody really cares about the center, right? We talk about quarterbacks and receivers and running backs and tackles. Centers are important. Centers, as Alex also said in that interview, have to be natural leaders. So for them to say that they trust Ryan, he said it was Mario's decision. And then Mario came to Alex and said, hey, I think we should roll with Ryan Rodriguez at center. That says they not only trust him as a leader, they trust him as a player. They also trust him from a health perspective. Because if he goes down, who's the backup? If you hear the guys talk, I think Alex said in his interview as well, Reese Woodrow was running with the second team at center. Reese Woodrow has no snaps at the college level. So if you're putting your eggs in the basket of Ryan Rodriguez, you must trust not only his ability to play high level ball, because they're not risking this season being unsuccessful. Not with Darian Mensah and Malachi Tony and Cooper Barkay in the defense. They're not risking this being a throwaway season. So in a season where you need to keep momentum, coming off a visit to the national championship, you're saying we trust this kid at center. That's a big deal. And it's not just his mental. It's not just his physical ability. It's also about his availability. Because as we all know, the best ability is availability. So if they trust Ryan, who am I to not trust Ryan? I think Alex Mirabal is a top 3 offensive line coach in the country. If Mario Cristobal wasn't a head coach, he himself would probably be a top 3 offensive line coach in the country. They say they trust Ryan Rodriguez at center. I trust Ryan Rodriguez at center as well. I want to circle back and finish up with that piece that Jason Taylor said, and then we'll close out with some recruiting talk, and I will get out of here because we try to keep these things about 30 minutes. This is what Jason Taylor said when he was asked about Akeem Mesidor and Ruben Bain.
Success in the NFL. What do you think about Ruben and Akeem? Will help them in the NFL, make them quality NFL players?
They got everything. They got everything. They got, number one, they have the mental makeup. They love football. Not to take anything away from anybody in that league, but there's a lot of guys that don't love ball or have different motivations. And there's nothing wrong with that. Everybody has their own motivations for things, but those two guys love ball. So the way they work, their love for football and their love to be successful, they fell in love with the process of being great. You know, everybody wants to be great. Everyone says they want to be great. Not everyone falls in love with that process, you know. Everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. Everyone wants to be great, but not everyone's willing to do what it takes to be great. Those two guys love it. That's why they'll be really good. They'll give a damn how long somebody's arms are. Put on the tape.
Hey man, you can tell that thing was personal. Hey, Jason Taylor, he tired of people talking about Ruben Bay's arms and how long they are and aren't. But man, this line right here, man, this is a bar. Like I almost want to put this on a poster, dog, and have him sign it. Everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. So just remove the football stuff for a quick second. Like, just let's step away from football. But this is so true, right? My degree is in finance, and I always tell people the best thing I learned while getting my finance degree was about opportunity cost. And in a very basic sense, opportunity cost means what are you willing to sacrifice for something that you want? Everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. You're not willing to sacrifice your life here now for something that you will even say is even better. You say you believe that this other thing is even better, but you won't sacrifice what you have right now. You're not willing to pay that opportunity cost. So that's a quick just life thing. I thought this was a super dope line. I'm actually going to keep this one. But from a football standpoint, I thought that was dope as well because it's true, man. Everybody wants to be great. Everybody wants to be rich. Everybody wants to be in shape, and everybody wants to, have all these things. But is everybody willing to put that work in for it? And that's one thing you can't question about Akeem Mesidor and Ruben Bain. Like he said, they love ball. You have to love ball. My little brother is physically special. And he went to college to play football on a degree. And I had that conversation. I'm like, bro, do you actually love ball? Because there are guys who do it and it's fun, and there are guys who love it. And the guys who love it, if they are born with enough natural physical ability, they will find success. Akeem Mesidor and Ruben Bain are those kind of guys. They're born with enough physical ability, and you match that with a love for the work, a love for your craft, man, them dudes gonna be successful. They're gonna be successful, man. I don't care what nobody say. I'm with Jason Taylor, man. I don't care about the arm length, dog. Some stuff you can't teach, man. And love for greatness, love for the work, you can't teach that. Either you got it or you don't. Most people don't. Them dudes have it, man. And oftentimes those kind of guys will find success. Let's finish up with this. They are saying this recruiting weekend will be the biggest recruiting weekend in Mario Cristobal's tenure at the University of Miami. Man, that's saying a lot. Mario, he makes his bones in the offseason. The rival fans try to make jokes and they try to troll about it. Oh, Miami's offseason champs. Miami's offseason champs. Yeah, we kind of are. And you can troll it if you want to, but what you do in the offseason plays a big part in what you do in the fall. And Mario wins offseason more times than not. The biggest recruiting weekend. Look, I'm not plugged in. I will always say it. I'm not plugged in. I ain't got no sources, no sauces, no juice or nothing like that. For the most part, I see and read everything that y'all see and read. I may know a couple people who know a couple people, and every now and then they may be able to drop some nuggets at me. But other than that, man, I'm getting the same information y'all are getting. When it comes to recruiting coverage, Gabby Urrutia at Inside the U is unmatched when it comes to covering the Miami Hurricanes recruiting. Gabby Urrutia is a dog at covering this, man. Love for the program, love for what he does, and you can tell by the way he puts in his work. If you're going to pay for a service of information or coverage of the Miami Hurricanes, Inside the U is absolutely the way to go. I don't work for them dudes, but I actually do pay for that service. And for years, I was very anti on that. But these dudes are actually worth it. If you really want to be in the weeds and what's happening with this team, man, David Lake, Gabby Urruti, they do a fantastic job. Anyway, man, Gabby dropped an article, but you can also see it all over social media. Everybody's talking about it. This recruiting weekend is going to be crazy. Some of the names that are going to be there, you might remember if you've been following me for a while. I did my top 5 most wanted recruits in the country. One of them has committed elsewhere. There's a kid Honor out of California. He committed to USC. But on my list, there was Nick Lanier, who's now committed. DJ Jacobs, who committed to Ohio State, the number 1 DN in the country, the number 1 player in the country, according to some people. Mark Matthews, the number 1 tackle in the country from St. Thomas Aquinas. And I also had Israel Abrams, the quarterback. Israel Abrams was just on campus visiting. Those are the 3, DJ Jacobs, Mark Matthews, Nick Lanier. They will all be there. They will not be the only blue chip, highly touted, highly recruited, highly sought after recruits on campus. The list is absolutely loaded. Go look at Gabby Urruti's article. He dropped this thing on the 31st. That was yesterday. That man dropped a list of names, and the list is crazy. The list is crazy. Mario is about to win another offseason. I'm just going to go ahead and call that shot now. I don't think it's a hot take. Mario is about to win another offseason. I think we've already done it by bringing in Darian Minson, Cooper Barcade, and Damon Wilson. You kept guys from going to the league like Ahmad Moten and Mark Fletcher. Mario's about to win another offseason, dog. The recruiting class has an opportunity to be his highest rated yet. And having recruiting weekends like this help propel it. A Nick Lanier being on campus to recruit the DJ Jacobs and the Mark Matthews and all these other cats, as well as respected as he is, goes a long way. Recruiting is going to go up. If it's not your thing, that's cool. I understand why, the money and all that. The games these kids play, I respect all that. But dog, if you care about recruiting at all, if you pay attention to recruiting even in the least, go find this list. Go find this list on social media. There's dudes in Facebook groups posting it. If you're a little bit older, if you on Twitter, it's on Twitter. There's people on Instagram talking about it. This recruiting weekend is going to be crazy from the type of names, the type of talent that's going to be on campus. And I would not be surprised if we start seeing more commitments from guys that have been visiting. Guys have been visiting the spring practices. Abrams, that quarterback that I said I wanted, the number 3 quarterback in the country, recently visited a practice. There are many more names visiting practices. Recruiting is only going to go up. So if it's not your thing, then that's cool. You got to pay no attention to it. But if you care about recruiting in the slightest, hey, you might want to tune in. It ain't like the old days where kids wait until February to sign. A lot of kids, they commit in the summer. They sign in the early signing period, which happens in December, and they're locked in. A lot of these kids are going to commit this summer. And a lot of the kids that commit in the summer are going to be kids that are visiting these practices in the spring, that are visiting for these big recruiting weekends. And this one could be the granddaddy of them all. Man, I appreciate everybody that tunes in, man. I appreciate all the love. I appreciate all the Canes Nation. You guys can get your content from a lot of different places, a lot of different people. And I always say go watch them dudes too, because there's a lot of people dropping good Miami content. I watch those other dudes. You should go watch those other dudes too. Hopefully, plan is to continue to bring more people on, especially more of my homies for sure, but definitely some other folks that y'all may be enjoying their content, and we can come in and we can chop it up and do a show together. If you're here, if you watch this, please hit that like, man. Please hit that subscribe. That's it for this week. Try to keep it around 30 minutes. I've been running a little bit late. I apologize, but I appreciate y'all rocking with me. Man, until then, until next week, do this every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Y'all stay safe out here. And as always, it's Go Canes. Y'all be